Hi, my name is Rachel, and I work for relink.org, and we are so excited that you are able to join us today. We are just going to hang on just a few minutes and let people come on, and I'm going to share my screen and share some slides in just a few minutes. Okay, we're going to start going through these slides. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have Deborah and Christy on, who are going to share with us today. Christy's going to be sharing a little bit about the work that she does, and she's going to be monitoring the chat for questions at the end. And Deborah's going to also be our main presenter today and sharing. I'm just going to go through a few slides for relink.org and share a little bit about the work we do in case you are new and you're not sure what Relink does. So at relink.org, we are a free database that's throughout the state of Ohio. It's free to use and it's free to be listed on, and we have over 14,000 resources in several different categories. We do have a human trafficking section specifically where we have resources listed, which we're really excited about. And that's why we love to partner on these types of webinars and bring awareness to these different topics. But on this particular slide, you can see where the green button where Find Help Now, when you go to relink.org, when you click on that, then it'll take you to the section where you can either put in a city or you can put in a county or zip code, and you can find resources under several different categories. We have addiction recovery, reentry, human trafficking, which I mentioned. We have family resources. We have several other areas as well, including basic needs, which is a popular category that a lot of people search under. And once you click on one of those categories, you'll get different options, like on option 3 that you can choose from. You can also list your services on relink.org. So if you're a service provider and you'd like to be listed on relink.org, you can do that. We can either help you set that up or you can do it yourself. And when you go on to where you can list your services under account portal, you can click register and that'll give you the option to create an account, and we'll link that for you. One thing that we love to suggest is that people keep their own data up to date and keep going in and making it current. So if you have any changes in the services that you provide or the contact person, phone number, anything like that, you can actually go in and change that and keep it up to date for your own agency, which is great because then it keeps things current. And when people are clicking on it and they are looking at that resource, they have current information. So this is a 3-part webinar series. Our next webinar, part 2, is going to be on Wednesday, October 18th at 2 o'clock. And it's going to be the Mahoning Valley Human Trafficking Task Force. And the title of that one is Ending Demand, Targeting Traffickers and Buyers in Online Advertising. So that one also is going to offer a CEU. There will be CEUs that will be offered for today, one CEU for attending, and we'll be getting those out either towards the end of this week or the beginning of next week. This is the contact information for relink.org. We'd love it if you have any questions. You can email us at info@relink.org or you can call us, and we're happy to answer any of those questions. We're happy to help you with any category searches if you're running into any issues. We are really happy with how user-friendly relink.org is, and we always say you can find a resource in 3 clicks in 30 seconds, but if you ever need help with anything, we're happy to help or happy to help you list your agency on relink.org. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Christy from Eyes Up Appalachia, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the work she is doing and how she helped us create this webinar series.
Hey everybody, Christy Bartman from Eyes Up Appalachia. I run Eyes Up Appalachia, which is an anti-human trafficking initiative. We focus on education and training efforts, don't do direct service, but I work with a whole lot of people that do. And my model is built on partnerships and collaborations, and I'm just thrilled to partner again with Relink. We do a lot of partnerships, and it's just been wonderful. So thanks for hosting this series as well. Eyes Up Appalachia facilitated some stakeholder meetings earlier in the year, which really focused on prevention for human trafficking. We came up with 4 themes, and one of the themes was social media and technology. While we're creating some resources guides and things like that, particularly focused on kinship care and those serving youth, it's extremely important that we just get the word out on social media, what to do about it, what we're seeing. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is that exploitation on social media is happening at a much younger age. And we want to try to help you understand that better. We want to help you see the trends in that. And that's what today's talk is going to be about. Today's presentation is on online exploitation and NCMEC's resources and reporting tools. And again, it's a part of a the first part of a 3 video series and 3 webinar series. And we're really looking forward to working with you on that. So I'd like to introduce the speaker for today. Her name is Deborah Ortiz-Party. She serves as the Outreach Program Manager with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC. She's from the New York Regional Office in Rochester. She's a seasoned trainer and community educator. She leads outreach efforts locally, regionally, and nationally to amplify NCMEC's services, resources, and programs, of which they've got a huge amount. Deborah's career in the child safety and prevention field spans about 24 years, presenting to and empowering youth, caregivers, and professional audiences on NCMEC's resources and preventative messaging. So I'm going to turn it over to Deborah and look forward to what she's going to tell us.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, you should be seeing the opening slide in front of you. Okay, so thank you again for that wonderful introduction. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to connect with all of you about online exploitation. And I have a lot of information to share with you in a very short amount of time. So we'll do my best to get through all of it, and we'll have time at the end to address any questions that you guys might have as well. So just to kind of give you a sense of the flow of today's discussion, I'm going to give you a brief overview of who we are as an organization. I know that many of you joining today come from various disciplines, and you may have a different connection with the National Center. So many of you might have worked with us a lot, or maybe this is brand new to some of you. So I hope to level set a little bit and to get everybody familiar with who we are as an organization. And then we're going to talk about some of the trends and data that we're seeing through our reporting mechanisms around exploitation. And we'll talk about some of the reporting resources that are available if a family or a child believes that they are being exploited online or targeted online in any way, places that they can report that type of exploitation to us. And of course, we want to prevent this stuff from happening in the first place. So I'll be sharing out some of our prevention resources that are available to communities to utilize when bringing prevention education to your communities or to your audiences, or, some of you might be joining because you're a parent, or maybe you're a parent professional. So I think you're going to find a lot of this information is going to translate well for you, whether you're in the professional realm, whether you're joining as a concerned family member or citizen, or both. So I think you'll find these outreach resources helpful not only in the broader community, but also at home. And we have a variety of training opportunities for professionals and the general public as well. So I'll be touching on some of that for you. All right, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that even though this presentation does not contain abusive or explicit imagery, these topics can be very difficult to hear and to discuss, even for professionals who work in the field. So I just want to remind you to take care of yourself during this presentation and to take advantage of any self-care resources that are available to you. So let's dive right in. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, also commonly referred to as NCMEC, or you might hear me refer to us as the Center, is a private nonprofit organization that has served as the country's central resource center for missing and exploited children since 1984. We were founded by John and Reve Walsh after their 6-year-old son Adam was abducted and found murdered in South Florida. And his tragic death and those of other missing children, such as the victims of the Atlanta child murders, Eton Pates from the late 1970s, those families rallied together and inspired a movement to create a coordinated national response to the issues of missing and exploited children. So we are headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia, and as mentioned in the intro, I hail from our regional office in Rochester, New York. We also have a regional office in Texas and in Florida. But we do provide services nationwide. Today, the National Center works in partnership with families, survivors, private industry, law enforcement, the general public to assist with recovering missing children and providing services to deter and combat child sexual exploitation and engage in prevention education. So we can't do this work alone, right? It takes an army to help keep kids safer. Our mission is threefold. We aim to find missing children, reduce child sexual exploitation, and to prevent future victimization. We offer families and caregivers hope and resources during some of their most difficult experiences of their lives. So our unique vantage point as the nation's clearinghouse for missing and exploited children issues and the data that we collect through our programs informs the development of innovative child safety resources that address the evolving needs of children and families. So we continue to lead this fight to protect children by creating vital services for them and for the people like you who serve them and want to help to keep them safer. We know that every child deserves a safe childhood. So we are congressionally funded to operate 15 specific programs related to missing and exploited children. So you're going to hear about some of those programs today throughout this presentation. And one of those is our national hotline. So there's a variety of ways that we help to find missing children. We have many programs. We have our national hotline. We engage the public to be kind of the eyes and ears to help in the search for missing children when we send out posters. We are a secondary distributor of Amber Alerts nationwide. We have our Team Adam, which are retired law enforcement officers who are specially trained and have extensive experience around missing children cases. They are available to offer law enforcement technical assistance when these cases occur. So for children who remain missing for a long period of time, we can offer age progressions to their photos and update those posters over time because, of course, children, as they grow and develop, they're going to look very different. So we want to keep those posters up to date. So we have our age progression program. We have forensic services available for investigating agencies, analytical services. And of course, we also help to support families during reunification and during the whole crisis when their child is missing or exploited. So I'm going to dive into some of those resources as we go on here. So first, talking about 1-800-THE-LOST, our national hotline. This is available 24/7, 365 days a year. This is the phone number that families can call if their child is missing. The first phone call that they should make should be to law enforcement. There is no waiting period to report a child missing, but we do want families to know that once they make a police report, that they can call us, and that'll help mobilize us to be able to provide assistance to the investigating agency and also to that searching family. And I mentioned some of the ways that we can help with doing that already. You can see some of these listed on the screen here, but we aim to help both sides of the case, the family side and law enforcement side. And we're just a phone call away, whether you're law enforcement or a family, 1-800-THE-LOST. And if you're working with families, in a provider capacity, and you encounter a family who's experiencing a missing or exploited child, again, this is a resource that you can point those families to call, because not every family knows that this hotline exists and that they could reach out to us. So helping to share that awareness is really key in these cases as well. So this pie chart just shows the types of cases that the National Center handles, and it kind of shows you also the volume of the case types as well over the last several years. And as you can see, over 90% of the reports that come to the National Center involve children who had run away. And we consider every child who runs away as an endangered child, simply because of their status as a minor, right? They're vulnerable because they are children, but we also know that they could be at risk for various factors when they are missing after they run away from home, and that can include child sex trafficking. So you can see here the various categories. The cases that we handle do not necessarily cover every single missing child case in the country. These are just the ones that are reported to us. I do want to point out that in Ohio, NCMEC worked on 1,621 cases in total for 2022. 1,455 of those cases were resolved, and at the end of the year, 166 were still active. So just for some more regionalized information for you around that. But I really want to focus on the nexus between missing children and exploitation and the trends that we're seeing around that today. So one of the things that we are seeing is, as you can see from this particular pie chart, over 77% of children reported to NCMEC were because they ran away from home. Those runaways were missing from foster care, social services, some sort of placement. So we often refer to these types of cases as children missing from care. And we saw a really big increase in these reports after a law was passed called the Preventing Sex Trafficking and Strengthening Families Act of 2014. And this mandated that child welfare agencies must report to NCMEC as soon as a child in their care goes missing. So this federal law is very significant because it acknowledges the risk that a child faces when they're not in the care of a safe, trusting adult. Children who are engaged with the foster care system have already experienced various levels of trauma, such as abuse, neglect, removal from a family unit, multiple placements, abuse within the system, and so on and so forth. So they are particularly vulnerable to trafficking incidents. So we continue to work with child welfare agencies to encourage consistent reporting, and we are happy to provide training to child welfare staff as well to familiarize them with the reporting process for children missing from care. And there's a specialized form online that they can make those reports. Okay, so while child sex trafficking is not the only issue that we work on at NCMEC, we have developed specialized teams and a specialized response for these types of cases, because we know that child sex trafficking is also a missing child issue. And running is probably the biggest endangerment when it comes to this. We estimate that 1 in 6 children who had run away and were reported to NCMEC last year were likely victims of child sex trafficking. And so we know that the missing children issue and exploitation issues overlap very much so. We also know, some of the trends that we are seeing is that when children do run away from home, and when they run for long periods of time, it is often because they're either running away from something, and oftentimes that can include abusive situations, or they're running to something, which of course could be, situations that could lead to CST, to child sex trafficking. Some additional trends, last year overall, we received over 19,000 reports of possible child sex trafficking cases. You'll note here that about 18% of children reported missing to NCMEC were also missing from child welfare. We receive reports on CST across the country in every community. This is not a problem that just exists in another country or in just certain areas of the country. This is something that can happen in urban, rural, suburban areas, tribal communities, and we receive reports through our reporting mechanisms from all of those types of places. So it's really important to kind of debunk that myth that tends to be out there that this stuff doesn't happen in my community. It certainly can and does happen in each of our communities. We also have received reports to NCMEC, including victims from all different genders. So when we're thinking about prevention and prevention messaging, we want to make sure that we're very inclusive in our prevention messaging. We know that LGBTQ plus youth are particularly at higher risk for running away, for child sex trafficking, and other risk factors. So we want to make sure that we're inclusive with our messaging. Okay, so we also have our child sex trafficking recovery services team. So a part of that kind of specialized response in programming through the National Center, these specialists provide technical assistance and resources to child welfare workers, and they're working with missing children who are also victims of child sex trafficking. So these specialists provide knowledge and guidance on promising practices and trauma-informed response, and by making connections to statewide and local specialized child sex trafficking resources. So our RST resource specialists are prepared to assist in the development of intentional, trauma-informed, and victim-centered plans, which have been proven to build rapport, increase opportunities for youth engagement, and reduce trauma responses. So you can get more information about our recovery services planning team and services on our website. And to connect with them directly, you can email them at recoveryservices@ncmec.org. By the way, I do want to mention a lot of our slides have email addresses or web addresses or QR codes that are on the slide. So you are welcome to take a screenshot or to scan the QR code or to take a picture of a slide. So that you can capture those resources. But just so you know, I will be sending along, when you get that follow-up email with your CEUs and all that, you'll be able to also gain access to some quick links. I'll make sure to share those out. And those will be passed on to all of you as well. So if you happen to not catch a resource, don't worry, we have you covered. All right, so there's a variety of ways that we aim to reduce child sexual exploitation. We operate our Cybertip-line, which is the centralized reporting mechanism for suspected child sexual exploitation. We help to identify children in sexually abusive imageries and try to figure out where in the world this child is so that we can help establish a jurisdiction for an investigation. So our child victim identification program works very hard on that aspect. We often partner and collaborate with tech industry to help find new solutions to better protect children online. We provide technical assistance to requesting law enforcement agencies seeking to find sex offenders who aren't living where they're supposed to be. And we do a lot of training with law enforcement, prosecutors, educators, and other child serving professionals. But what I want to focus on with you today is our Cybertip-line. As mentioned, it's the centralized reporting mechanism to report online child exploitation. So on the screen here, you're going to see a number of categories that can be reported to the Cybertip-line that involves a child who is age 18 or younger. I'm going to focus on the top 3 bullets here. So you'll see there's a variety of things that can be reported to the Cybertip-line. The vast majority of our reports tend to be child sexual abuse materials, or CSAM for short. Over 99% of the reports that we receive at the Cybertip-line involve CSAM. And please notice that I'm not using the term child pornography, and that is very intentional. The language around this issue has changed over time. The term pornography really implies consent, and of course, minors cannot legally consent to sex, and certainly not to child sexual abuse. But let's call it what it is. These are depictions of abuse that's happening. And so you will see here at the National Center, we are utilizing this terminology. We're changing the terminology on our reporting form, and there's also movements to update the terminology in federal code to update it to child sexual abuse materials or child sexual abuse imagery. So when I talk about CSAM, that's what I'm referring to. The second highest category that's reported to our Cybertip-line is online enticement. And online enticement is kind of an umbrella term for when an adult uses technology to gain access to a minor in order to sexually exploit them or to abduct them. And there's a variety of types of online enticement that can occur under that umbrella, including sextortion, which is a trend we're going to talk more about, and including financial sextortion as well. So we'll talk about what that is momentarily, but we've seen some increases in this particular category over the last several years, which is very concerning, a very concerning trend. And then child sex trafficking can also be reported to the Cybertip-line, and that is our third highest category reported to us. So I always like to underscore that all these categories are examples of child sexual abuse facilitated by the internet. So when we think about prevention strategies and messaging to families and communities, and other interventions, we need to keep this in mind to be careful not to draw a hard line or stark division between online life and real life or offline life, because these lives are not very different and they're often interconnected. Okay, so to give you a sense of the magnitude of the type of the reports that we're receiving at our Cybertip-line, just in 2022, we received over 32 million reports. And again, the vast majority of those included child sexual abuse materials. And as you can see from the graph on the right, you can just see the magnitude of the content that's being reported to us, and that our analysts have to sift through and share out with law enforcement. So really what this is telling us is that probably now more than ever, talking about these issues with children, with families, and within communities at large is ever important. I mentioned earlier that we can provide support to families of missing and exploited children as well. We offer professional support, peer support, referrals to community resources throughout their healing process. When families report to 1-800-THE-LOST when their child is missing, or when children or individuals report online exploitation to the Cybertip-line, we make efforts to be able to connect those reporters and their families to our family advocacy team. But folks can reach out to us proactively for support as well by you can find more information at ncmec.org/support, or by emailing support@ncmec.org. Feel free to scan the QR code on the screen to connect you directly to that part of our website. So families do not need to have a report registered with us, whether it's on the missing side or the exploited side, to be able to seek our family advocacy services. So anybody can reach out to us for that. And our family advocacy services are very much complementary to child advocacy center services, especially once a family has kind of quote unquote graduated from the CAC. There are often many support services for the child victims, for the survivors, but not always for their siblings, parents, or other caregivers. So our family advocacy team really helps to try to fill that gap. You know, that home and family environment, having that healthy family environment is so important for children to heal after trauma. And our team is happy to help with that. Part of our family advocacy team is our Team Hope network. And this is a network of volunteers who have personally experienced trauma of having a missing or exploited child. With this firsthand knowledge and the multitude of emotions that family members face, these volunteers provide peer support to families of missing, recovered, or sexually exploited children. So they are matched up with family members who are newly experiencing this type of crisis, and just to be that ear and to offer understanding during a time when it may seem like nobody else may be able to comprehend. So in 2021, the center expanded the program to include adult survivors of exploitation and missing incidents. And more recently, the program has grown to include adult siblings as well. So giving that peer-to-peer adult support to those siblings, but also to survivors as well. Additionally, the Family Advocacy Outreach Network, or FAON for short, we love our acronyms at NCMEC, is a voluntary network connecting victims and families with mental health services and other providers within their communities. So FAON seeks the expertise of experienced treatment professionals and service organizations who are willing to provide their services to NCMEC families, either pro bono or at a low sliding scale. And if you are a provider, if you're working with providers in your community, we'd love to expand our network and to include you in our network. And more information about this can be found at ncmec.org/support. We provide a variety of brochures that are available for providers and organizations. And I just want to highlight one of them. This is called Reconnecting with Your Child. So this brochure is for families who are reconnecting after a suspected child sexual exploitation incident. It's really easy to read with some do's and don'ts. It's clearly delineated. You can link to this brochure right on our website by going to the link on the screen, or we can even send you hard copies as well. We have a number of brochures that are available, and I'll be pointing out a number of hard copy resources or PDF resources that you'll either be able to find at our website or that we can send to you. So feel free to reach out to us directly by calling 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can email us at outreach@ncmec.org, and we'd be happy to connect you with hard copy resources. All right, so that is, in a nutshell, an overview of who we are and a lot of the resources that we have that we provide. I'm going to share more about prevention resources in a little bit. I do want to touch on a little bit more about some of the trends that we're seeing around exploitation. So these two graphs are just really show again. Just how much reporting of online exploitation has increased over the years. Year 2020 was a record-breaking year with more than 21.7 million reports of suspected child sexual exploitation made to NCMEC. Excuse me. And so up to that point, that marked our highest number of reports ever received in one year. But as you'll see on the chart on the left-hand side, this has really increased over time. And we can continue to see that steady incline in reports over the years. But what is probably more concerning, pardon me, is the increase that we're seeing in online enticement reports. Between 2019 and 2020, we saw a near doubling of online enticement reports specifically, and between 2021 and last year, we saw an 82% jump. Pardon me, I have a little bit of a tickle going. I'm going to take a moment to take a sip. Pardon me. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, I mentioned our child victim identification program. And in this program, our analysts review CSAM imagery that is actively traded, and their aim is to be able to identify where the children in those images might be located and to try to determine a jurisdiction to be able to share these reports with law enforcement so that they can investigate, identify the children, make an arrest, and help prevent further victimization of these children. And out of the actively traded series and images that they have seen and have identified over the years, a trend that is something that is of note is that 72% of the children who are depicted in these images, and in regard to the relationship of the exploiter, had some sort of direct connection. So we're talking family members such as parents or guardians, babysitters, a coach, somebody who has direct access to the child. So when we think about that, in terms of prevention, and I mentioned earlier, we tend to separate online and offline life. Oftentimes, some of this stuff is overlapping, and somebody already in the child's life might be using technology in order to achieve online enticement or exploitation. So we need to remember that with prevention messaging, not to focus on the stranger online that is acting inappropriately, but really looking at healthy relationships and healthy behaviors and how to recognize that no matter who it is that's trying to connect with a child in an online format. Additional trends that we're noticing as well around online enticement is youth-produced content. We're seeing an increase in youth-produced content, such as sexting and an online enticement in general. So this data comes from, again, images where children have been identified, and the series or the group of images and videos have been actively traded. So basically content that has been reported to NCMEC at least 5 times. So this just shows some additional data around that, but I do want to point out the chart on the graphic on the right-hand side of the screen regarding the age of the victims. We tend to think of older children sometimes when it comes to imagery, but we know that children of all different ages have been reported to us in terms of CSAM. The younger the child, the more egregious the images tend to be. But taking a look at, 58% of the victims that were depicted in the images were likely prepubescent. So when we think about, again, prevention, are we talking enough to our younger children about consent and about healthy relationships in age-appropriate ways, of course. So we need to start having conversations with children at younger and younger ages in an age-appropriate way. If a child is old enough to have a device in their hands, they're old enough to have a conversation about safety. Okay, so we're seeing again that trend of youth-produced explicit content, or it might be called self-produced explicit content. And this is exactly what it sounds like. These are images that are produced by children that depicts themselves in the images. Most commonly, we think about this issue around sexting or sharing nudes by teenagers. And that is very important to discuss. But we're also seeing that connection to online enticement, and specifically with sextortion. So I'm going to kind of break down some of the trends and some of the shifts that we're seeing around sextortion. And we also know that live streaming is an area that we're looking at as well, because it tends to be very private. It's not monitored. And that's also where children might be manipulated or coerced into sharing self-produced content as well. How many teens are sexting? This is a meta-analysis from the Journal of Adolescent Health. And so basically this this analysis takes a look at multiple research studies, and then they came up with an average from what was reported in those studies. And so this really helps to inform our understanding of sexting behavior. They found that 19.3% of teens have sent a sext message, over 34% received a sext message, received content of other children, and 14.5% forwarded them on. So, as adults who care about child safety, these numbers are high. To a young person, these might not seem very high, but we've seen the fallout of what can happen as a result of sexting, the harassment, the bullying that can result. Kids have a little bit of a different perspective. But the important takeaway here with prevention messaging is, we see this 19.3%, but what this also means, and we can say truthfully when we talk to kids, is that most kids are not sexting. We're going to look at some other data from Thorne quickly, and one of the things that came out of that is this perception of young people that sharing nude images is normal, everybody's doing it, but we know that that's not the case. 80% of kids are not sharing their content with others. So we can include that in our messaging. Additionally, 34.8% have received the images. So we want to make sure that we're talking to people, talking to children who, what would you do if something pops up on your phone? And you see something, how do you handle this situation? Where can you go to report? Should you share this image on with others? And of course, we don't want them to, but we know that 14.5% of teens have forwarded the content to others. And so having that conversation with young people to say, listen, forwarding this content is not appropriate, and it's not okay, because it can contribute to the overall well-being of the person depicted in the image. It could end up fueling the issue around harassment and bullying and embarrassment and everything that goes into that image circulating. So it becomes more a part of the problem. So we want kids to know that it's very serious, a serious consequence when this content is forwarded out, and we want to discourage that as much as possible and help them to understand and to think critically around the decision making around that. So I mentioned Thorne. Thorne has a lot of research on self-generated content and young people's attitudes and experiences around that. And I'm just going to share a few points from some of the research, but if you want to dive into it more, you can go to thorne.org/research to look at their full reports. So they did a study in 2019, and this is kind of a scatter slide of the research that they conducted and some of their findings. So I want to start with the two boxes at the top, the 47% and 36%. So 47% of kids who reported sharing their images. They reported a positive feeling involved with sharing their images. So I think it's important to acknowledge that when we're talking to kids and try to understand that this can be the experience of some of the kids in your lives or some of the kids that you're talking to around these issues, is some might be feeling positive feelings when they share out their images, that they've engaged in this behavior and they didn't necessarily feel bad about it. But then we can look at the 36% who had a negative experience. they have shared and experienced embarrassment, shame, been uncomfortable. So we can tell kids that too, you know, when they're going through that whole decision-making process around should I share, should I not share? And as they're weighing that out, helping them to be able to think critically around it. So it's not a universally positive experience. It is a very mixed experience. So it's hard to know how you're going to feel after you share. If you're thinking about or deciding if you're going to do something like this. The chart in the center is telling us that kids are often just trying to figure it out, and they're largely trying to figure it out on their own, because many adults are not talking to young people about the decision-making process around sharing nudes or not sharing nudes. So it's really important that we're having those conversations with young people and helping them work on that critical thinking around these issues. Additionally, Thorne wanted to see if anything changed over COVID. So these were some just updated numbers. I'm just going to call out a few of these. Overall, for ages 9 through 17, so they surveyed children ages 9 through 17 in each of their studies. So overall, 17% said that they had shared their own content overall, and that was a jump from 11% from 2019. And teenagers themselves, that was a jump from 19% to 24%. So we are seeing increases during that COVID time frame. For 9 to 12-year-olds, so we're talking third and fourth graders, upper elementary school, they're up to 14% from 6%. So that was a pretty big and significant jump. For younger teenagers, it went from 15 to 19%. And something that is particularly concerning is those who identify as LGBTQ+, they are disproportionately higher at 32% than their counterparts. So that's really, again, important information to pull out as well. And again, being inclusive in our messaging. Okay, and then back again to our 9 to 10-year-olds, they jumped up from 3% to 15%. So what is this all telling us? It's telling us that kids at younger and younger ages are starting to engage in this. And we need to make sure that we're including messaging and not waiting and starting when kids are teenagers to talk about these things. We want to talk to younger kids too. Kids also reported in the study from 2021, you know, what stops them? Okay, if you're not sharing, what stops you from sharing your content? And the number one answer is their photo being leaked or shared. Only 6% of the time are they saying that the fact that sharing their images is illegal is stopping them from not sharing their images. So that's not really a message that resonates with young people. So we want to make sure that we're meeting them where they're at with our messaging too, and what's going to resonate them in terms of helping to motivate them to not share their images online. Okay, so this is just another breakdown of some of the data from the 2021 report. So if you take a look at the 9 through 12-year-olds again, their perception on believing that this behavior is normative jumps from 7 to 16%. So again, we can tell kids that most kids are not engaging in sexting behavior, but yet they still kind of have this belief that it's normal. Also, 21% of this age group has seen non-consensual CSAM. So again, many of us are talking in elementary schools about, you know, well, really, how many of us are talking in elementary schools about when that image pops up on their phone? So we need to be talking about this stuff at younger and younger ages. In terms of sextortion, we saw a shift in what's happening with sextortion cases. So from 2013 to 2016, the vast majority of the reports that we were receiving around sextortion to our Cybertip-line involved female victims, and the goal of the offender was to obtain more content, whether it was to collect it, to trade it, to sell it. Last year in 2022, we saw a shift in the vast majority of the reports that we received. 93% of the reports involved a male victim, and the motivation was financial. So it looks a little bit different. They might be using a single image to say, if you don't send me money or something of value, I'm going to share this image with somebody else. And sometimes that image is not even a self-produced image. It could be a doctored image. Somebody takes a profile picture or a picture from a child's social media page and then puts it their face on a CSAM image, and then uses that as a threat to gain something of value or money from their victims. So we call that financial sextortion. And this is what it could look like. Okay, so what we know with financial sextortion is it can happen much quicker than the traditional sextortion of trying to gain imagery from a minor. Um, and it's happening on a very, very large scale. Oftentimes, these sextorters are located outside of the country, and they're reaching out to children in the United States. They can be very aggressive, so it can happen quicker. It happens very soon after initial contact. And we've even seen situations where some children have died by suicide as a result of the threats and the coercion and the stress of the sextortion experience that they had. So this is one of the major trends that we're seeing around enticement and online enticement. So when this happens, kids can feel very lost. They don't know where to turn. So reporting mechanisms are really important and should be a part of prevention messaging as well, helping kids to understand what can be done if something does happen, if they find themselves in a situation, what are steps that they can take. And of course, we want to encourage them to talk to trusted adults in their life, to know what resources are available to them in their school, in their family, in their community, and knowing what reporting resources are available as well. So we have a number of reporting resources. And what we hear from survivors of CSAM when they speak to the long-lasting damage and impact of their images and videos being circulated on the internet, the lack of control of both the file's existence and circulation, it leaves them really struggling in their recovery. So we're using new technology and working with like-minded partners and with the ESP industry, electronic service providers, to be able to assist in these situations and help report and get this content taken down. So one of the resources that are available right on our website is your explicit content out there? So if you go to our Get Help section of our website and click on Is Your Content Out There, it'll connect folks to our reporting resources, so the Cybertip-line, our national hotline, 1-800-THE-LOST, but it'll also point to instructions on how to get content removed from popular social media apps. So if they think their image is circulating or has been posted on one of these apps, this will give them step-by-step of how they can request to have it removed. So it's a proactive way that they're able to take steps to minimize their content being circulated online. Additionally, we want to encourage young people to report to the Cybertip-line as well, because when that happens, when they report to the Cybertip-line, and they report CSAM, we're going to go through steps to verify the age that they were, the age of the victim in the image. We're going to work with our internet service providers that we collaborate with to be able to flag this content for removal. And we'll also aim to connect the survivor with resources as well. Of course, this process does require, in order for to move forward with it, for them to reveal who they are. Sometimes survivors are not ready or willing to they want to stay anonymous. They don't want to say who they are. They're afraid to have law enforcement involved. So to give them another option, we have a new resource called Take It Down, which will help children to and adults to report any nude, partially nude or explicit images that depicts them as a minor, and to report that. It'll basically, what it does, it takes the hash value. So it's basically a digital fingerprint of that photo or video, and it places it on a database that is then shared out with partnering internet service providers, who will then flag those images for removal. So it's an anonymous way to be able to have content proactively removed from the internet. I'm going to share with you a little video that'll talk about that.
So you're worried about nudes out there. It is super scary and really stressful, but you're not alone. This can happen to anyone, and there is help. Take It Down is a free service that can help you remove or stop the online sharing of nude, partially nude, or sexually explicit images or videos taken of you when you were under 18 years old. This is how it works. Get started by answering 3 simple questions. Select the image or video you're concerned about, and don't worry, it won't leave your phone or computer. And submit. You don't even have to share your name or other information. Pretty easy, right? A unique digital fingerprint called a hash value will be assigned to your image or video. Online platforms can use that to detect these images or videos on their public services, review, and remove them. It all happens without anything leaving your device. Remember, you are not alone. Take It Down is a service operated by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. For more info and resources, visit takeitdown.ncmec.org.
Okay, so when somebody wants to make a report to the Take It Down website, this is what it looks like. They just hit get started, and they're going to go through a series of basically 3 questions. We want to verify that they were under the age of 18 in the image. If they were over 18, they're going to be referred to another resource. We want to verify that the imagery depicts nude or partially nude or explicit content. So just to help discourage people from sharing a non-CSAM content, like, a bunch of pictures of cats, right? And once they do that, they're going to select the images they want to be included onto the database. So again, it's not going to share the image. It's just going to share a hash value or digital fingerprint of the photo or video. So they're going to select the photos and videos as you would normally when sharing an image, except the image itself won't be shared. You can do up to 10 images at a time. Again, intentional. We don't want people uploading thousands of non-CSAM hash values. So this really discourages people from misusing the resource. They're going to verify their submission, say that they're not a robot, and then it's going to be submitted. And along the way, they're going to be pointed to additional resources like the Cybertip-line and Is Your Explicit Content Out There. There's lots of great facts, frequently asked questions on the website. I encourage you to check it out. And these are some of the partners that are partnering up with us to help flag these images for removal. And we're constantly adding more partnerships there, and you can keep up to date on who's partnering with us on the website as well. Okay, we've had a number of success stories with Take It Down already. So we really encourage folks to use this resource. It's been helpful in terms of when kids come to you, if a child comes to you and says, I think my content is being circulated, I need help taking it down, you can refer them to the Take It Down resource. And we're also seeing overlapping reports with the Cybertip-line as well, where it was reported to take it down, but also reported to the Cybertip-line. Okay, lastly, I just want to point out our prevention resources that are available to you very, very quickly, because I know we're running, dangerously running out of time here. But of course, our philosophy at the National Center is adults must take the lead with prevention education. We have 2 prevention programs. KidSmarts is our personal safety resource. NetSmarts is our internet safety resource. And we've done a lot of work to look at thinking about prevention messaging and what is effective, and some of the takeaways that we have and what you're going to see in the resources that are available on our NetSmarts website is making that shift from only talking to teenagers, making sure that we're talking to children at younger ages. We have a lot of great content for elementary age kids to age appropriately talk about some of these issues, such as extortion, without using this extortion terminology, right? But looking at behaviors and how kids can recognize uncomfortable situations and how they can overcome barriers to talking to trusted adults and getting help. Not just focusing on strangers online, but looking at behaviors and weaving it into conversations around healthy relationships, healthy friendships, what is okay, not okay, knowing who to turn to, steps that you can take, and including reporting as a part of that as well. Moving away from the just don't do it messaging to providing accurate information, skill building, critical thinking, character building are all going to help. And not just focusing on worst case scenarios. We want to empower children to make good choices and to take steps to reach out for help when they do encounter something. We know that kids are capable. This is just an example of a report that was made where somebody was trying to convince a child to share nude images, and the child, with some humor, was able to refuse and made a report to the internet service provider, who in turn reported to the Cybertip-line. So again, we want to encourage reporting as part of prevention. This particular offender was not able to achieve the outcome that they were looking for with this child. And this child reporting it could also help to prevent this person from maybe reaching out to other more vulnerable children. So again, NetSmarts is our online safety program. We have content for children in grades K through 12. We have a number of resources here that are available just clicks away, including full presentations for different grade levels, all scripted and ready to go. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So if you're doing any kind of community education in your schools, in your communities, we have these resources for you to pull from. We have Google Slides for the classroom setting, that we created during COVID because we knew that PowerPoint was difficult to use and online platforms for online learning. So there's a number of Google Slides at all the different age levels. We have a myriad of tip sheets for youth and for adults, activity guides, content for young kids, content for teenagers, peer education kits, a website just for elementary students. So there's resources to cover the gamut and that grows with the child. Into the Cloud, just to kind of highlight our series for elementary age children, features our NetSmarts kids characters and a whole host of other characters in a dramatic storyline, an engaging storyline, but along the way, they're learning some very important safety messages. I was going to show you an example video, but instead I'm going to give you homework because I know I'm over time right now, and I thank you all who are sticking with me. But I encourage you to visit our NetSmarts website and take a look at the videos and the content. And if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to us. We also have content for teens around sexting and sextortion with discussion guides and tip sheets that go along with those. I do want to point out our sextortion resource. This is a poster. We can send you hard copies. You can also download it from our website, make these available in places where teens are located. What they tell us is put them in bathroom stalls. They'll be more likely to scan the QR code if they think they're being sextorted and want to reach out for help in a private place as opposed to in a hallway or in a classroom. And these are just examples of other tip sheets that are available. KidSmarts is our personal safety program for grades K through 5. It follows these 4 rules of safety. Is a video for each safety rule, lesson plans that are available, a presentation that is scripted, and we have lots of great supplemental resources on our KidSmarts, NetSmarts, and our regular ncmec.org website around sensory-friendly resources and additional child safety resources on our website. So if anybody is interested in using our resources and want to partner with us in a more formal way, we are always looking for folks to join our Community Education Partnership Program, where we will provide facilitator training on our presentations and offer technical assistance throughout the year. So if you'd like more information about that, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to send you an application for that. We have lots of trainings available on our website and through our NCMEC Connect LMS system. So you can find more information about our trainings at ncmec.org/training. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just encourage you all to utilize NCMEC's resources, whether it's referring families and survivors if they need resource, case assistance, family survivor services, share our tip sheets, make them available in your organizations, reach out on a professional level, share about our FAON. So just help with spreading the awareness of all that we have to offer. And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions about anything that we covered today or any of the resources that are available to you. So I want to thank you all for your time and your attention, and thank you for bearing with me for going over for 5 minutes. And if folks are willing to continue to stay on, I would love to answer any questions. I'd be happy to stick around for any questions if you have that
Lots of
time.
good feedback. We're getting lots of thank yous and very informative. I am just really excited to be able to host this webinar. I'm always thankful to Christy for putting this together and helping us get such amazing speakers and content. So thank you, Deborah, so much for all that you shared. And if anybody does have any questions and you want to put them in the chat box, we are monitoring it. We'd be happy to hang on just a second and keep answering questions. Or if anytime in the future you have any, you can always send anything to info@relink.org. We're happy to pass those on. And like Deborah said, we're going to be sending out a follow-up email that will have information on both of the organizations that were mentioned today and some links and some resources so that you can get in touch with them and also click on those links and resources for additional information.
Deborah, we had a question. Is there a way to get access to this presentation, or are you just going to provide the links that were within the presentation?
Yeah, I'm not able to share out the presentation itself, but I know that it is going to be made available to view. It was recorded and will be made available in a variety of different ways to be able to share out that way. But yes, I'll be sharing out some quick links to all the resources, and really like our website, it's pretty much all on our website. So I encourage folks to bookmark it, visit it often. We have so much information on our website available at your fingertips. So I encourage you to do that. And I will, again, send Rachel those quick links to the resources that I talked about today so that you can quickly access those particular parts of our website. But I do encourage you to explore because there's just so much. And I always feel like I'm scratching the surface in these short presentations because there is so much to share. We do so much work.
It was great. I saw a couple questions. We will send the CEUs out, so that'll either come out the end of this week or the beginning of next week. And the second and third training, the second one will be on October the 18th at 2 o'clock, and the third one will be November the 30th at 2 o'clock. And those have 2 separate Zoom links, but we will be sending out links to register for those in this follow-up email.
And for the 18th, it's the Mahoning Valley Human Trafficking Task Force talking about ending demand and targeting traffickers and buyers online. And then the third one is going to be done by She Has a Name, and it's talking about the John schools that they host and what they've learned and how they influence recidivism.
And I just was hearing today feedback on both of those that people were really excited to hear those information and that those were going to be great presentations as well. Christy helps us set all these up and we're very thankful for that. you don't have any questions, you did such a great job. You covered it all.
Yeah, Deborah, so thank you so much. I mean, just an amazing amount of resources. I know I link to a lot of them from my website, and I really do appreciate that because you've got such great material. So I certainly encourage everybody, NCMEC has just amazing resources. So please take advantage of them.
Thank you for the
so
plug.
Have any other questions? Like I said, you can always email them to us at info@relink.org, and we look forward to having you join us on the next webinar on the 18th. Have a great day.